Good morning. We're so delighted to be here, and I'm so happy to introduce my new host for the Meet the Artist program, our music director, Marcelo Lehninger. You see, the excitement is palpable.
Thank you so much. It's truly honor to be here. I'm really happy. Couldn't be more happy, and already working with the orchestra, and the vibe is great on stage, and you'll be able to experience that Friday and Saturday and Sunday. So thank you for having me. I couldn't be more happy.
And now I would like to introduce the guest soloist. She's one of the most celebrated violinists in the world. We're so fortunate to have her here today with us. She regularly performs with LA Phil, New York Philharmonic, London, Royal Philharmonic. I mean, she travels a lot, and we're very fortunate to have her here. So one and only, Anne Akiko Meyers.
I think you're all familiar with.
Wonderful, wonderful. What an appropriate opening for the season opening concert. We're so delighted. Thank you, Anne. Oh, what a treat. I'm sure there is a story behind it.
There is, actually. Every time I play this piece, I'm reminded of my screaming nephew. He was screaming his head off as I was playing it in the Mariners game in Seattle at the beautiful Safeco Field there. And there were 42,000 fans, and you know, it's just going crazy. And I go out into the microphone, and there's my nephew going, "Wah! Wah! Wah!" And you can hear it on YouTube in all his glory.
Who did they play?
They played the Boston Red Sox.
Oh, and Red Sox won, right?
Sorry. No, Ichiro hit many home runs that day, and I like to think it was because of my rendition.
Fabulous. You know, it was so much fun. I watched that YouTube, and yes, I did hear the nephew in the background and all the comments below. And it's like, it's a home video. So, and
Be forgiving.
Exactly. And the audience just clapped throughout the entire anthem. It was just so fabulous because I probably have never had a violinist do it before.
Yeah, strangely, I mean, you always have a singer, you know, and I thought this is really one of my dreams is to play at a baseball game. And
What was the largest audience that you played for?
I think close to 1 million people in the Sydney Harbor.
Oh, wow. Phenomenal setting. What was the occasion?
It was celebrating their bicentennial. And that was kind of crazy too because I was very young. I was maybe about 16. So I didn't understand that when it's summer here, it's winter down under. So I came with a short mini gown, and my mom and I were frantically looking for a gown to cover my legs because it was so freezing. You know, and I was out on a ferry boat, actually. And yeah, it was a really fun concert.
What connection do you have with Sydney?
Well, I love the city. I've been there several times to play at the Opera House, and yeah.
She's so well traveled. It's amazing. I follow Anne's news on Facebook and on her website. I'm one of your biggest fans here too, and I'm so impressed with what she has done and how she's done things. It's just an amazing. You're an amazing violinist, an amazing artist, and very innovative. I know that we've discussed a little bit your social media endeavors, and you're very big in social media. We launched our Symphonet competition the same day that you launched yours. We have a competition for bound vocalist, career-bound vocalist, to perform Beethoven Ninth with New West Symphony in May. We're giving a $2,500 contract, and we partnered with a group called iCadenza, and they will contribute career development services to their winners of the competition. And when Anne launched her competition, it was wildly successful, and I need to learn how you did it. So could you please talk a little bit about your competition?
Well, I had this idea since I totally love Arcus gold cadenza bows. They're a carbon fiber bow, which is a little unusual. And I have several of them at home, and I thought, you know, a great way to share this is to just have an open competition with any kind of violinist from around the world, and they just would have to submit a 2-minute video, which I got close to over 1,000 entrants. And I had to decide who would get this lucky bow. And it went to an incredibly talented Armenian violinist. And there was just so much talent out there that I decided to expand the competition a little bit, and I ended up having a second place with $1,000 and a third place with 5 sets of really great titanium violin strings that are about, you know, $100 a set. So, you know, all these accessories and accoutrements that you don't think of that are expensive to keep the violin going. But
thank you for sharing your fortune. It's just amazing because I looked at the candidates, at the competitors, and they came from Kazakhstan, Armenia, countries that you know, my geography teacher hasn't covered. You know,
exactly.
It was just amazing.
It was amazing. I was really flattered and so honored. I mean, it's just that, you know, there would be this much attention from kids all over the world. And like even the third place went to this incredibly talented, I think she's a Georgian violinist, but she's studying in Singapore. You know, and it's like, wow, I mean.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the most important stuff. The kids. I know both of you are parents now, and it was interesting because Marcelo New West Symphony holds a special place in Marcelo's life. That's what he tells me, because he found out that his wife was pregnant during the first New West Symphony rehearsal. And he shared it with the entire orchestra, and I was in the back. I wasn't sure why the orchestra started smiling and clapping before he even took a baton. And I said, oh, that must be a great sign. We got a winner here. So, and apparently he shared the news about his wife being pregnant with the orchestra, and they, of course, were overjoyed and clapped. So that was exciting. And then a year later, a daughter was born.
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about your life as a parent and mixing it all up with being a musician and an
It's
acting
great.
musician?
Sophia is already a concert pianist at age 1. She really likes the piano. It's amazing because they, as you know, they develop their own personality very soon, and I couldn't believe it. So I play everything. I play opera, I play symphonic music and chamber music and contemporary music and Stravinsky, not only Vivaldi and Bach. I play everything. And she listened to, but piano is her thing. So I put piano, and then she really pays attention. She stopped crying. Pretty amazing. So yeah, Sophia was born 9 months after I made that
I
announcement.
know, I was joking, I was joking.
And now she's with a year. Actually, she'll be a year October 1st, which is also my birthday. So yeah, I got the best gift, yes.
Fantastic. And last time I saw you, you were playing in Santa Barbara, and you were
Ready to blow. Ready to pop with baby.
ready to pop. And it's interesting because that was the first time I met your oldest daughter, Natalie. And she was just so cute. And your husband was there. You have a great support.
Yes.
So how are you managing your touring, kids, competitions, and how do you do it all?
I eat my Wheaties. It's a lot. Well, little Andy is now 6 months old, and she also adores music. I mean, as soon as music is put on, she's just rapt. Her attention is incredible. And little Natalie is over 2 years old, and you know, it was so strange because I was touring so much when I was pregnant with both of them, but when I would always start my day playing scales. And, you know, after Natalie was born, I started my scales, and she looked immediately up at me. And I was like, wow, interesting. She knows where those scales came from, you know?
Wow.
It's like surround system, you know?
Wow. So it is true.
It's very true. Like the neurons in their brains are very affected by music.
Do you think they would want to play violin, or?
She already does.
She already does?
Yeah.
Does she play Royal Spanish Stradivari or ex-Napoleon?
The 1/16th size, yes, ex-Napoleon Stradivari was made for her at charmusic.com. It was incredible. I could just buy it online and
and give it to her to do.
Yeah, I've already played the Bach double with her. She's my Bach double partner. You can watch it on YouTube.
This is very fun. You know, Anne and I were talking yesterday. I really enjoyed her. There is a segment when she's announcing the winners of the competition, of her social media competition. She has Andy all the time, and there, I don't know, your balcony, gorgeous view, and Andy, she's holding Andy, and I said, oh my God, the entire time that you talked, I could not stop looking at the baby. So you picked the right partner for this video.
That was the whole point. I was telling Natalia, like, you know, it takes all eyes off of me, and everybody's attention just absolutely is riveted by the baby, which is exactly what I wanted to do.
Excellent, excellent. I'd like to talk a little bit about your CD, and I have it here. Anne was very generous and gave me a CD. Her new CD, Erbach, album, recorded with English Chamber Orchestra, and one of our guest conductors, Stephen Mercurio, who performed with us last January. And can you tell us a little bit more about this CD, because it was so successful, it was wildly successful. When it debuted, it was #1 on Billboard, and it's still it's a bestseller on Amazon and iTunes. What's the selection? We'd love to know everything about it.
Well, it starts off with the beautiful meditative air by Bach from the Orchestral Suite No. 3, which, you know, is just like, it's like the air you breathe. It's just so a part of our DNA to hear this kind of music. And then it has the great 2 violin concertos, the A minor and the E major concerto, as well as the Largo from the harpsichord concerto. And then it ends with the Ave Maria, which I'll be playing today. But the twist of the album was that I also recorded the double concerto, and I played both parts on 2 different Stradivari violins that I own. So I wanted the audience to really see if they could figure out, you know, which one was which. And it was really easy for me to choose which voice should go to which violin.
How did you do that?
Well, I call the ex-Molitor Napoleon Strad Molly. And Molly is really, she's quite beautiful. And just, she looks blonde. She's blonde and beautiful.
She's Molly, yeah. Well, there is a reason why Napoleon picked it, right?
Well, yeah, right. It belonged to a legendary Parisian intellectual and beauty named Juliette Récamier. And Juliette had this and some other Strads in her collection. But something happened between Juliette and Napoleon. I'm not sure what, but she was exiled from France. So, and then Napoleon had it, and then it was passed down to one of his top generals in his army named Count Joseph Molitor. So the story, the history is fascinating. But she has a very pure and crystalline voice, and just very much like a coloratura soprano. So I thought that is just ideal for violin part 1 of the Bach double. And Tall, Dark, and Handsome is the Royal Spanish. He's a gorgeous, very masculine sounding violin, much more kind of bass to that sound, and it was just ideal for violin too.
Fantastic. And Anne was very clever and recorded 1 part in London with chamber orchestra, and then another part was recorded in New York, right?
That's right, exactly.
Why did you choose the location? It's so interesting how you came up with these ideas. And
well, we had to actually edit the first part that was done with the English Chamber Orchestra, and that was kind of so strange, because it's like you're playing tennis with yourself. You know, it's like, where's your partner? You're kind of waiting at all the tutti sections for violin 2, and just imagining how it would sound. And so after editing that part, then we found the stage in New York, and I had headphones on, and just like any normal rock musician, I recorded part 2.
Fantastic, and it sounds so gorgeous. Anne brought her CDs with her, so you can purchase them at the concerts. Speaking of the concerts, we're performing this Friday in Oxnard Performing Arts Center, on Saturday in Civic Arts Plaza here in Thousand Oaks, and on Sunday at Barnum Hall in Santa Monica. So if you miss one concert, please come to Saturday or Sunday performances, or come to all 3. So that would be fantastic, and please tell your friends about this extraordinary talent that we have on stage and performing with New West Symphony. So, and I am so delighted that you're here. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about the program, and then we'll go back to the CD. Marcelo, for the first time, you rehearsed with the orchestra as a music director. So what's the feeling? Now it's your orchestra.
Well, no, it's not my orchestra, but
No pressure
it's
there.
much more
No
your
pressure.
orchestra than
No pressure, yeah.
It was great, really. It was fantastic. But the feeling didn't change from that first rehearsal when I announced that I was going to be a father. It's kind of the same, actually. You know, the same friendly atmosphere and the same great vibe, really great. The orchestra, one thing that I fell in love with this orchestra, actually, is how they react during rehearsals and, of course, concerts. They're so willing, the willingness to do music in the highest level, and the mood, you know, because they play in another orchestras or studio music, so when they're performing symphonic repertoire, they're so into it. They're so happy to be playing that repertoire. So it's really, it makes a huge difference. And so we had 2 rehearsals already, and yesterday we had our first rehearsal together. I never met Anne before. Of course, I knew about her, but I never met her in person. So that was very interesting and nice to work together with you. It's a pleasure. So I'm just really happy and delighted to be here. It's just, you know,
Fantastic.
I'm feeling already part of this family.
Oh, I am so happy to hear that. And can you tell us a little bit more about your concerto? And you chose it for a reason. And
Well, the Samuel Barber Violin Concerto is, I think, one of the greatest American masterpieces ever written. And it is one of just a lush, romantic, very accessible work. I'm sure most of you have heard it. And it was written in 1939. And there's a little bit of a controversy around the concerto because Samuel Barber was writing it. He was commissioned by an industrialist in Philadelphia, and he wanted something for his prodigy that he was helping support. And Barber took the commission and went to Switzerland and started to compose the concerto and finished the first two movements, which are very romantic and neo-romantic in style. And he gave this music to the prodigy and Bricelli, and he was not all that pleased with the music. He said, you know, this music is nice, but in keeping with today's standards and with how great I am as a performer, I need you to make something really virtuoso of, you know, the third movement. And so he pondered this, and he had to come back to the States because the war was breaking out, and he went back and started composing the third movement, which is a perpetual motion, and it's 3.5 minutes of hell. And it's basically, it's like you have been pushed off a cliff and you're hanging, overlooking this, you know, I don't know, like you're at the Grand Canyon, and you're told to just relax and enjoy it. It is so difficult, and it's a marathon to the end. When he got the last movement, he deemed it unplayable. He just thought that it was just totally not in line with the first two movements, and he just refused to premiere it. So they actually found another violinist at Curtis to premiere the work. It's been played so much ever since. It's one of my favorite concertos. The first recording I made when I was 18, I made sure to record the Barber Violin Concerto with the Bruch Concerto, which is a much more conventional work. But yeah, I just love performing it, and I'm so happy that we can open up the season with such an incredible work of art.
It's really interesting because actually the deadline for Barber to finish the concerto was October 1st.
That's right.
Yeah, that was the deadline. We're okay. We're the deadline.
It's true. That's
but
funny.
It's really what you just said. It's explaining a lot, because when you look the structure of the concerto, you have the two movements, very melodic, very romantic, really, and then out of nowhere you have this more modern and completely different style.
Yeah.
But somehow I feel that actually it fits in the whole structure. I don't feel just a separate part of the concerto. It's really part of that whole.
It's a very organic part of the concerto.
But it was really interesting yesterday at the rehearsal. I asked Anne, so do you want me to attacca with the third movement, which means should I start right away or do you want some tempo in between? And she said, if you do that, I'll kill you.
I might have said it a little softer than that.
On that interesting note, we'd like to hear Anne.
Just the backstage banter between the maestros.
This is how we find out the dynamics of the relationship, right? We'd like to hear more of Anne's playing, and Anne promised us a piece from her new CD. So you were playing Ave Maria?
Ave Maria by Bach, and it was arranged by Gounod. And I have the lovely pianist Shirley Shea, who's going to be accompanying me this morning.
Bravo. You know, and I'm speechless because this is so moving. And I think that's what you and Marcelo and the orchestra inspire. Every time I go to new West Symphony concerts, I am moved. And this is what we usually tell to our patrons who say, why do we want to hear live music? Because the experience and the emotion, they are unparalleled. And every time we have a different guest artist, I have a different feeling. And you know, we always work really hard to put the concerts together because we are a union orchestra. We work with musicians from all over California, and we also have our principal cellist comes all the way from Florida. And it takes a lot of effort to put the concerts together. And I'm seeing that there is a president of the symphony here and the immediate past president and the city manager in the audience. And we're so fortunate to have this phenomenal orchestra on stage of Oxnard Performing Arts Center and City of Thousand Oaks and Barnum Hall. And when we work so hard, it's so much fun at the end of the day, be inspired and moved by the performances. And then at the end of the performance, I always feel, this is such a phenomenal feeling, you know, because when audience leaves the venues, they cry, they shake my hand, and they say, this was one of the best performances that we've had. And I hear it all the time. So I guarantee you that when you come to hear a new West Symphony at the Civic Arts Plaza here on Saturday, you will be moved. So I really want to talk about the rest of the program. Marcelo, could you please tell us a little bit more?
Of course, we're starting with Wagner's The Mastersing Overture, or Prelude, whatever you want to call, which is really, there's no statement starting the season with that music. It's just a very fun and uplifting music. And I remember when I first started with the Boston Symphony, and Maestro James Levine was there, and he was the music director, and he was starting the season. And the piece that he chose to open the season was the Mastersing. And it was really interesting because he was late for rehearsal, not late, but he was almost late for rehearsal.
We're on TV.
And I remember I was covering that concert, and I was, you know, a little anxious if I had to start my first day of work with the orchestra, actually, with starting the rehearsal. But he arrived, and he did a great job. And just that feeling and that remembering, really, he's starting with that noble overture was just a beautiful moment, really. So I think it'll be, we can reproduce that here as well, and just a very nice way to start. And then, of course, we're receiving Anne with the Barber, which is, you know, we don't need to say much more about the concerto, but it's really fantastic and phenomenal. And it's just a treat for us to really receive Anne here with one of her signature pieces, if I may say, playing the Barber for you. So that would be great. And then moving just to another direction, which is Dvorak, and doing his Symphony No. 8, which is definitely one of my favorite. And it's his pastoral symphony, really, and so inspired by nature. And so you can hear birds in the second movement playing by the flute, and a lot of folk songs, Czech folk songs during the symphony. Just a beautiful and honest and amazing piece of music. And sometimes when you're choosing a program, you think about the connection or about any theme or any link between the three musics, and I can't think of any with those, really. But somehow they combine, they match, and it's just a beautiful program. And so I'm glad to be conducting that for you here in Oxnard and Santa Monica.
Fantastic, fantastic. I wanted to ask, I started a conversation about the benefits of coming to the concerts and hearing live music, and you travel a lot. and you see all the trends. We're kind of living in an unprecedented economic environment at the moment. And some orchestras are experiencing problems, some orchestras are succeeding. And yesterday we talked about a little bit, you and I talked about the future of the symphony orchestras. What is your take on that? What do you see in the country and around the world?
Well, I feel every time I get onto an airplane and I've been summoned to play with an orchestra, I'm really amazed. You know, I've been touring since I was 16 years old professionally, and now that I'm 17 years old,
both of you look 14.
It's, how many decades have I been touring, really? But I'm just really amazed and flabbergasted that, you know, I'm flying from my home wherever to London or Berlin or Tokyo or Oxnard or, you know, wherever it might be to play music. And that, you know, I do not know a lick of the language in Russia or in, I know some Japanese, but like Korea. And yet you can play and you are sharing something with the audience, you know, and that to me is everything. It's so magical, and every audience is different. Every audience. All 3 nights is going to be different, you know, and that I'm able to take part of that, I feel incredibly, incredibly fortunate. And I think that my fellow colleagues really feel fortunate too, to be bringing music to the hall and to children and parents, and it's entertainment, you know. It's the time that you can finally just kind of let your hair down and enjoy something at night, you know, just enjoy an evening of music. And that is so special to me.
You know, and I think that you resonate with everybody else's thinking. I remember the times when in 2009, 2010, then we were uncertain. What does the orchestra world, where is it going? And I remember talking to some of the subscribers, and they said, yes, we're losing some disposable income, but we will never give up our subscription to the new West Symphony, because this is a part of our life. This is enrichment, this is entertainment, and we can let go the reality and just be there in the moment, sharing that moment with 1,800 people. And that is really special, and I think that that would probably will help the orchestras continue going and be successful. But a lot of orchestras in the country right now are closing, experiencing problems, and redefining their business models. And we're quite fortunate. And I always say that to everybody who's willing to listen. While Washington is cutting the funding for arts, the cities where we perform, especially City of Thousand Oaks, actually is supporting us. And we've never been, I've never felt alone, because I felt that because of the subscribers and because of the city and the city council, everybody is helping to make this a successful venture. And we get so much support. Just for example, last weekend, you know, we have a music van, which is we call it instrument petting zoo. So we had about over 1,000 kids going through our music van booth. We had over 50 volunteers coming and trying the instruments and helping us introduce the instruments to the kids. And I always notice those kids who go from instrument to the instrument to the instruments. The parents are dying to take them away, but they spend an hour trying the instruments, and I'm thinking, oh, this is our future audience, and this will play a violin, and they self-identify themselves as musicians when they leave their area. It's so funny because I'm going to play a trumpet. And that's about it. They make a decision. So we introduce the instruments to the kids, and I think that's how we grow our audiences.
Also, just from the artist perspective, you know, I find that it's so important to nurture the young composers out there today. And I've worked with a lot of composers, but in the coming months, I'm going to be doing a big world premiere by a young composer named Mason Bates, who's writing his first violin concerto. And you know, to be able to work with an orchestra that is so excited also about the possibility of new music, bringing new music to audiences is really a joy.
I saw Mason when he was just starting. I think he was an assistant, or no, he was a composer in residence somewhere in Northern California.
That's right, yeah, the California Symphony.
California Symphony, and it was very fun because it was my first concert when we had a computer on stage, and he did electronic music with the orchestra, which was quite fun.
Yeah, he's a DJ, actually. That's his normal job, is a DJ at night, and then he's a composer by day.
So, but you're premiering this concerto with several orchestras, right?
Yes, with the Pittsburgh Symphony this December, and then with Nashville Symphony, and with Marin Alsop also in the summer. So, yeah, it's really exciting, and I've been slowly getting the music right now.
Well, you know how it is. You know, sometimes, I think Marcelo told the story, sometimes when the composer finishes the music, they actually slide it under the door in the hotel, right, half an hour before the rehearsal. So
it happened to my father, actually. My father is a violinist, and he was preparing a new concerto, and he was at the same hotel with the composer, and the music was not finished the day before the rehearsal or something. So he was receiving the pages through the door, under the door, and so like a fax machine.
He should have checked into another hotel.
I know.
and FedEx that. Yeah.
Try to find me now.
Well, I think we talk about values of education. And Marcelo, you grew up in a musical family. Can you tell us a little bit more about your family and how you became a conductor?
I come from a musical family. My father is a violinist. My mother is a pianist. My sister is a violinist. Everybody really in the family. And as I said, Sophia, my year-old daughter, she's already a pianist. So the whole family. And it was very natural for me, really, music. I don't know if I chose to be a conductor. It was just something that happened. And my father used to play as a concertmaster for the São Paulo Symphony. And during that time, a great Brazilian conductor was Eleazar de Carvalho, which in fact, he was an assistant conductor for the Boston Symphony, sharing the position with Leonard Bernstein back in the 40s. So he was a very inspirational figure for me, and I became fascinated with the fact that someone was there waving their arms and really not playing anything, not making any sound, but changing completely the sound of the orchestra and working in a collaboration with the musicians to change the sound and shape the sound, and that fascinated me. So that's why I studied violin. I started with the violin and then piano, and I'm a conductor now, I think. But I've been doing that for quite a while. I started really young for a conductor, really. I started studying, I was 13 or 14. And then I started conducting, I was 18. And then with the youth orchestra, and then I started professionally, I was 20 or something. You don't need to do the math, but we do have great plastic surgery in Brazil. So, it was natural for me, and I think it's so special when you expose your children to music. Not necessarily if you're a musician or not, but I think that's very important, and it's part of the education to expose your children to music at home. And then, of course, we'll do our part. We'll be very close and very connected to education. And I think symphony orchestras today, they need to exert a very powerful and important role in education, and we are going to do that with New West, but as well as expose your children at home.
Fantastic. And I know you both have quite an exciting year ahead of you. And what else is in the works this season for you?
Well, I'm premiering Mason's Concerto, and I'll be also playing the Barber Violin Concerto at Carnegie Hall in December.
With Orpheus Chamber Orchestra.
Yeah. Fantastic. And they're a conductorless ensemble, so that will be very interesting.
You'd be much better for you.
Trying to get through that last movement with no conductor. At Carnegie Hall, wow. And I have many concerts throughout the season, and planning to make another recording in London kind of at the end of the season, so.
And I think that your recording career is just amazing. I think you have more than 20 CDs at your tender age of 14, so fantastic, fantastic. Marcelo, you opened the season with New West Symphony this weekend, and then Boston Symphony the following weekend, right?
Exactly.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Of course. So I'm catching a red eye after the concert, and I need to arrive in Boston and start rehearsing. And a very beautiful program, actually. We're doing Tchaikovsky's Romeo and Juliet, and then we're playing Bernstein's Serenade with Joshua Bell, and then I'm doing Dvorak 8, which is the same symphony I'm doing here. So I'm pretty excited to do that, and to start the season with the two orchestras I'm working for, and that I'm fortunate to work for.
Very special. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit more about your first experience in Tanglewood over the summer?
Yes, I had a great experience. It was my second summer in Tanglewood, actually. And then I did a very nice concert with the TMC Orchestra, which is the Tanglewood Music Center Orchestra. And they're all young musicians, and that was fantastic. You
did get good reviews, so I was very pleased.
Yeah, I was told I got good reviews, but the orchestra is just really amazing. They're all young, and when you have the possibility to work with a youth orchestra, you feel good because classical music, it's not dying. I mean, we have a lot of young people interested in classical music and doing really seriously. So that's wonderful. And then I had another concert with the Boston Symphony, and I had a dear friend of mine, Nelson Freire, Brazilian pianist. And I also present a Brazilian composer, Villa-Lobos, and then I did Mussorgsky pictures at an exhibition. So that was a fun concert.
It was very interesting because usually the critic reviews only new concertos and new music, and because it's exciting and it's interesting. But Marcelo got a review of performing Mussorgsky pictures at an exhibition. And the critic, I don't remember who that was or what paper it was, said that he brought youthful energy to a well-known piece. So that was very exciting for us to read about your endeavors in Tanglewood. So you have one more year as assistant conductor in Boston.
Yes, my contract was renewed, and I'm staying there for one more year, one more season.
Any exciting concerts that you're conducting this season?
Next week.
Well, next week is
one at a time. I need to study the music for next week. So it's hard when you're so involved with the music you're playing this week, and I need already to think about next week, but I hope I'll be fine.
Fantastic. Well, I want to talk a little bit more about the dynamics of working between Marcelo and Anne. It's interesting because you guys have never met. You've heard about each other, and how does it work? What's the dynamic when you walk in on stage and you see the orchestra and the conductor? Do you just start playing, or do you review the music? How does it work?
Well, I mean, usually you get 2 rehearsals before the first performance. It's really the norm. And, I've had many instances where I don't even have a conversation with the maestro, and you make this incredible, glorious music, and then you're like, see ya, bye. You know, it's like you've created this dialogue on stage. You know, it's just a really rich stew of language that you can't share any other way, you know? And then it's like, almost like you've gotten so intimate in one way, and that's enough. It's like, okay, back to our lives.
I know, I always feel sad when the concerts are over. I'm like, I'm ready to go for another week, you know? So anyway, on that note, I really thank you for supporting the symphony. I hope to see all of you at our upcoming concerts. And I'd like to ask Anne to play her final piece and introduce the final piece of the program. And if you really want to hear more music, you gotta buy a ticket and come to see the West Symphony.
So I would love to play a beautiful arrangement done of Over the Rainbow. And it was done by a Japanese jazz pianist named Makoto Ozone. And once again, Shirley Shea will be playing with me.